All right. 4-0, up to number 7 in the country. Got UCLA coming into Happy Valley. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show. We are at the We Are in Philipsburg. I'm your fake host, Chris Bucanani. I got 3/4 of my panel here. I got beloved campus icon Mike the Mailman.
Hey everybody, hello.
You psyched up, Michael? You ready for this one?
Oh yeah, we're ready.
Got Mount Nittany Conservancy Secretary Kevin Horn.
Hello.
And you are not Brandon Noble.
No, definitely
No,
not.
Brandon, this was the week he said he's going to drink with me, and I guess he got scared because he's like, you know what, I cannot drink with Pat.
Looking at this whiteout, energy-powered outfit, I'm not surprised. No, what actually happened is Noble has COVID, so he did not want to come up and, potentially infect the franchise or the new dad. He doesn't really care about me or Pat Romano, owner and host all season for obligatory here at the We Are In. So we're going to hear from Noble later in the program. We did tape record with him a little bit. Tape record. I don't know. There's no tape involved, but we did record. So Pat, we appreciate you sitting in on short notice. And we appreciate you rocking this ensemble that you treated all the fans at the whiteout that wasn't a whiteout last week.
Yes. Yep. Good. And I might have to wear it because in the stripe out, we're in the white section, which I'm always in the white section.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. The one thing you do want to be careful about, though, is if you wear this and we win again, people are going to start getting superstitious. They may just expect to see it every week.
That's true.
The worst part for me is if I fall less than twice with the platform shoes on, we win. We win.
Okay. All right. Well, keep it rolling. Can you fall at least twice against Ohio State? Yeah. Can you make that happen?
The platform shoes are definitely why you're falling back. No other reason.
Right.
Yeah, no other reason.
All right. So I think, guys, when people looked at the schedule before the season, they were pretty psyched up when they saw UCLA was coming to the Nittany Valley for the first time since 1967. Pat, you had an interesting factoid about the last time the Bruins came to Beaver Stadium.
So I have, you guys know I have a big collection of things, and I was looking through some of my old programs about a year and a half ago, and I came upon one, and it was October 7th, 1967. It was the last time UCLA actually came to Beaver Stadium. And I had to call my friend Blair Thomas, and I'm like, hey, Blair, the last time UCLA was at Beaver Stadium, the day you were born. It was the day Blair was born. And so, hopefully he's going to bring us some luck. Blair was coming up, but there was an accident in Harrisburg, so he's jammed up. But,
we'll get him on in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a loss for the Nittany Lions, but they did not lose again after that game until 1970. So, Kev, I think people were excited about the novelty of a new conference opponent coming in. And then as we've gotten closer and closer to the game, I've noticed more and more $20 tickets available because this is not a good football team.
Somehow tickets for this week are more expensive than the Illinois game last week. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But I don't know, the moment that UCLA's head coach went to media day and stood up there and said, you may not know a lot about us, we're in LA. And the moment he did that, then the ship kind of left the station, as far as I'm concerned, for the Bruins and being competent this year. And they come in here, I do feel a little bad for them. They come in here having played undefeated Indiana, a tough LSU team, undefeated Oregon, and then they come and play Penn State. I am pretty sure if Penn State drew that schedule that our coach would send Alan Zamitis personally to kill the Big Ten commissioner, who may or not be sitting over there. I feel a little bad for them. And then they top it off coming out here, with the noon kick and all, and that rigmarole that we'll get into. So they have not had a very good draw. They did get that win against Hawaii in week 1, but beyond that,
which was a close thing, actually.
Yeah, and they're coming here without. We're not sure if the quarterback's going to start. Their starting quarterback's going to play or not. He's not practicing as of Wednesday, and they've been coy about that a little bit, of course. So we'll see. The quarterback we could see has thrown 5 snaps in college football, and I don't know. I feel a little bad. They're at the end of the gamut here, though.
And they got to be travel weary because they went to Hawaii, down to LSU, back home. Now they come to the East Coast. I know in the NFL, teams that go back and forth have a hard time coping with all the travel. So let's hope that adds to the woes tomorrow.
Well,
let's hope.
You're a handicapper, Mike, so it's a narrative. Every sports writer within Center County has written about the problem of coming from the West Coast to the East Coast and playing a noon game.
Oh, yeah.
You're a handicapper. It's only worth a couple of points in the NFL. Not a lot of college data yet. I think it's somewhat overblown, right? The players say it matters, the coaches say it matters, but the statistics don't quite back up the drastic impact that has, right? They're not like you and I traveling, right? They're not eating NANs and Chili's at the airport stressing about what their gate is. Like, they get on the bus, they go on the tarmac, they they're not worried about sitting between people like me and Pat in the middle seat. They get on, they get off, they stay at a nice hotel. It's not quite as big of a deal.
Right.
They did get jobbed again by Fox having this game be at noon.
Yeah.
But that's
Thanks,
where
Fox.
the that'll be worth a couple of points, but it's not going to decide this game.
No.
I mean, unlike Penn State, Coach Franklin announced that we're going out to USC next week, and they're flying out. The team's flying out Thursday.
Smart.
UCLA is getting here. They got here Friday at like 5:00.
Oof.
Right, which is sort of interesting.
Which to me, Pat, when I saw the news that they were flying out Friday morning, they weren't even going to get here until the afternoon. And it's much easier to go from the East Coast to the West Coast, especially if you're going to have a 3:30 kick East Coast time, like Penn State is next week against USC, than it is to come the other direction and start what is 9 a.m. to your body, right?
Yeah.
I kind of got the sense, like, listen, I'm sure they're going to put in a good effort and everything, but don't you kind of feel like they're maybe just punting a little bit when they say that they're not arriving at Penn State until mid-afternoon on a Friday where they're going to play 9 o'clock biological time for them the following day?
Oh my God. Listen, I'll go back to the Joe era. Joe would get into the other area, other region, other time zone as soon as he could to start getting
absolutely.
people acclimated.
Sure.
Hey, if I have a business meeting, guess what I'm doing? I'm leaving a few days before so I could go in and be fresh, up to the speed with stuff, get rid of that jet lag, get off that plane, and let's rock and roll, you know? But, everybody has their own philosophies, their own plan, their own team. That's what they do. So that's why we're going to come.
So as you said, Kev, UCLA's starting quarterback Ethan Garber's injured last week, has not been practicing. For my money, I don't expect him to play, but I have no inside information. Mike, what do you think? You think we're going to see the backup?
Backup. Always.
That poor kid.
Yeah, I know.
There are a lot of people I feel sorry for in this game. I feel sorry for whoever's playing quarterback for UCLA. This is, I cannot overstate the extent to which this is a bad football team. They're probably going to battle with Purdue all season long for worst in the Big Ten. I think that for sure Illinois is a much better team than UCLA. I think Bowling Green might be a better team than UCLA. So what I want to get into, guys, is not so much analyzing what the Bruins are going to do against Penn State. Go Google their team stats. It's amazing. They have 228 rushing yards through 4 games. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen each have 2 games apiece where they've rushed over 100 yards themselves. This is not a good team. Penn State's going to win. I almost feel, and tell me if you guys are buying this, you don't see it too much in October, but this almost feels like an extra MAC game where we're thinking more about, can you get some depth guys in and can you work on some stuff that's been a problem area through the first 4 weeks of the season?
That's good stuff.
And get healthy, right? Penn State's a little hurt now.
Yeah.
There's bumps and bruises. We don't know. Again, it's offensive to ask our coach about the injury reports, but Nick Singleton was out. A bunch of guys are out, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like we already know about the long-term stuff, but some of the short-term stuff, hopefully we don't have to play anyone on Saturday that's dealing with any sort of lingering things, so we're fresh for USC, which will basically, Penn State beats USC, it is in the playoff, essentially, barring catastrophe. So
I think the backups will get a lot of play. Backups definitely get a lot of play tomorrow.
So another issue that did come out of the Illinois game, a lot of good stuff, obviously, not the least of which being Coach Franklin showed that he can just knock over a domino and the whiteout energy hits, right? We can turn that stadium white, a nice organic showing from the fan base. So congratulations, Nittany Nation. Probably the biggest pain point, other than the recurring offsides penalties, which at this point, we keep talking every week. Can we clean it up? Can we clean it up? I'm thinking more and more that's looking like a fact of life for this team. But the other issue is at some point or another, you are going to be up against it and you're going to have to feel confident about your ability to put the ball through the uprights for 3. It's a real problem. And paradoxically, Mike, I don't know how much we're going to get to work on it because I don't know how UCLA keeps the Nittany Lions out of the end zone.
That's a good point, yeah.
It'd be funny if it was like 3rd down or something on like the 35 and they just sent it the field goal unit just for the heck of it, up 30 points.
Or just have the players fall down at the 30 and kick a field goal.
Honest to God, are you almost kind of rooting for a drive to stall a couple of times? So, Coach Franklin, to his credit, I appreciate the way he and Sanders Sadidak's teammates rallied around him.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that one of the 4 core values of the program is compete in everything you do. And so if he rolls back out there as the place kicker on Saturday, that means he did something in practice to earn it. But for real, I think there is a legit question about whether or not you're going to get the opportunities to give whoever you feel confident in as your kicker live fire reps in front of a crowd when it counts before you go out to USC. I mean, so the question I want to put to you guys is, if you don't get one or two opportunities to attempt field goals against UCLA, what do you do in a high-pressure situation if you have to do it versus the Trojans?
Go for it, man. In many ways, it kind of can save us from ourselves. 4th and 5 unless you're going.
Back to the Bill O'Brien, Sam Ficken days where for a while you lost so much faith in the kicker, you just go on 4th down in no man's land?
I don't think you do that, sure. Yeah. You did that last week, and it's like, you normally probably wouldn't have done it, but it's like you get to a point where, hey, we got to get something on the board. So get some points on the board. So.
We've been spoiled with kickers throughout our history.
Oh, yeah.
It was spoiled.
Big time.
I'm sitting there with a guy one time, and we're sitting at the bar. Imagine that. And he says, he goes, and we're talking about the Eagles. And he's saying, well, how important is a kicker? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Take, what's face off the Patriots. And what happens? Take Vinatieri off the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
He was lights out. Lights out. Take him off. Maybe they don't win 4 Super Bowls. Who knows? They don't make some of them, because he was kicking lights out. Special teams are important. Special teams are very important.
Talking about folks on UCLA I feel bad for. You know who else I feel bad for? Deshaun Foster, who you and I best remember as torturing the Eagles in the 2003 NFC Championship game with the Carolina Panthers. Here's an alum who is trying to do right by his alma mater, and he gets put in a lose-lose situation as head coach of this roster. And a former Penn State assistant, Brian Norwood, on the staff out there, Kev. So I feel bad for the coaching staff of UCLA, who I don't feel bad for in any way are Penn State fans, who I think are going to get treated to a nice, comfortable win versus what is now, strangely enough, a conference opponent from Los Angeles. And I don't feel bad for you, our loyal audience, because you're about to be treated to another edition of Mike the Mailman's Trends to Treasure. You're feeling good about these picks this week, Mike?
I really do. I really like these this week.
All right, check them out. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. Mike the Mailman with another edition of Trends to Treasure. This week we have 4 games. We have 3 college games and 1 professional game. First up, we have Boise State versus Utah State. Boise State is 7-0 the last 7 games versus Utah State. So the play is the Boise State Broncos. Next up, we have West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 7-1 the last 8 games versus West Virginia. So the play here is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Next up, we have Auburn at Georgia. Auburn is 1-6 in the last 7 games versus Georgia. So the play here is the Georgia Bulldogs. And for our final play, we go to the NFL. We have Indianapolis at Jacksonville. Indianapolis is 1-8 in the last 9 games versus Jacksonville, and 0-8 the last 8 away games. So the play here is the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's it for this week's Trends to Treasure. However, I really like these plays this week. But remember, bet with your head and not with your heart. Go get them.
This segment of Obligatory is brought to you by Concierge Medical Associates. Whether you're a weekend warrior or elite-level athlete, let Dr. Stephen Murphy and his board-certified sports medicine specialists keep you at the top of your game. Schedule an in-person or remote consultation at conciergemedical.ai. Welcome back, everybody, to the Obligatory PSU Pregame show at the We Are In. Thanks again to Concierge Medical Associates for sponsoring this segment of the program. Again, Noble's out with COVID, but that's okay. We got another Letterman sitting in for him. Hopefully he's not going to Wally Pip him and take his job. We got one of the all-time greats, truly, one of the best to ever do it, and lace him up for the blue and white. Alan Zomaitis, AZ, thanks for joining us, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Pleasure.
So, to start out, man, just catch everybody up. For anybody who doesn't know, and if you don't know, shame on you. One of the great defensive backs in Penn State football history here, 2002 to 2005, part of the Big Ten championship team that brought Penn State football back, and now back as part of the coaching staff. Just talk everybody through what you've been doing between your time in blue and white and now back here in Happy Valley.
Yeah, so, right now I work in player personnel, so I help identify, who we feel is deserving of wearing the blue and white, and then I help, get them here. And that's a tall task. Where we're located, not having a major airport. People just see that we're always ranked in the top 10, but they don't understand there's a lot of obstacles getting guys here to witness what Penn State has and understand what Penn State represents. So that's what I do with the football team right now. You mentioned the 2005 team. I ran into one of the guys that is going to be represented tomorrow during the game, getting honored, is Paul Puzzlesny. Myself, Dan Connor, and him, we took a picture together, but it just brought back a lot of memories of, working hard towards a goal together, and then, being very resilient because the Big Ten Conference is not an easy conference, and we were coming in. I always remind people that we had freshman receivers. Like, can you think about trying to win the Big Ten right now with guys that are unproven and also young? But we did it, and we did it with a quarterback that didn't have multi-year starts. He was just a hard-nosed, blue-collar playmaker. And then we had a defense that was, went through the ups and downs at Penn State during those years and became callous to anything that came our way that was, in between us and our goals. So it was a great mix of different people and experiences that allowed us to achieve, what every Big Ten team wants to achieve, and that's to be champions.
And to do it the way you guys did, as you alluded to, coming out of some pretty tough seasons.
Yeah.
What no one was used to watching the program, well, you guys certainly did not sign up for when you committed to play for Penn State. And one of the things that's always impressed me is the way that core of senior leaders that you were a part of stuck together and really just kept that team focused long enough to bring in that infusion of young talent, and you had that combination of the young guys and playmakers, and then the leaders like Rob and yourself, Matt Rice, Tamba Hali. I mean, you just keep going. Anwar Phillips, Chris Harrell, Calvin Lowry, all of those guys.
Yeah.
And you guys are setting the tone. Then you got the young pups coming in, and they didn't know what they didn't know, and it didn't matter. And that was just the right combination of talent that helped bring this program back. And I mean, look, we're all really appreciative of what you guys did. What was it that when you were really in the toughest spots? You're going through seasons where Penn State's winning 3-4 games, which is something we're not used to. What drove you to stay committed and focused to allow us to have that 11-win season, finished number 3 in the nation, like really one of the all-time great years of Penn State football?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. Number one, we knew that we had a top-tier defense that was elite. That 2004 year, we were one of 2 teams, I believe, that nobody reached over 21 points.
Yep.
And that's what we knew. And we went against every Big Ten team, and we knew the look in their eyes, in terms of, every Big Ten team's offense. We knew that we were respected, and they respected us. And so that was like the cornerstone of the team. The other thing, it's a kind of a funny story, is that in Nittany Apartments, so anybody that knows Penn State and campus, there's Nittany Apartments that's right next to the facility. And there was a row of apartments called the 3000 block. Joe used to want to have guys live all around in the apartments. And I think maybe the reason is not to be all bunched up and be just football, to have different experiences with other walks of people. That was very important to Joe, to really get a college experience and to have relationships across campus that might not be athletes. That particular year, I don't know who set up the room assignments, but the whole 3000 block was nothing but football players, and our class that was like That was like, Andrew Goulman. That was Chris Ganner. That was Scott Paxton. Those guys. And we just bonded, man. I mean, we were, next door neighbors, everybody, and it didn't matter if you're white, black, rich, or poor. We bonded. And that was the thing that took us over the edge. Like, I look at our roster right now. We are so talented, our roster.
No doubt.
Now, our roster back in 2005 was very talented as well, but the thing that really separated us from other Big Ten teams during that era was the commitment to ourselves, to one another, and the bond that we had that was away from football.
Yep.
And then when it came to the field, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't gonna go more than 100% for my fellow teammate, like, because of all the the life experience that we shared. And then obviously, like you mentioned, the years that weren't good, that had us grow up in such a way that you couldn't tell us that we wasn't going to win the Big Ten when it came to 2005, when it was our team. And, I think that, really paid dividends at the end, but it was really the relationships. And whoever told us where we was living that year, it was funny. Like, when Joe found that out, was like, who did that? Like, that's what I heard. Like, who put everybody on one block? But it ended up being the best thing for us. And really, us as a class, when we see each other, back at Penn State, it's like we've never left each other.
That's
just
awesome.
pick up where we left off.
And the 3,000 block was totally dry, of course, right? You just studying.
Of course.
Very studious, no question.
Every time we have a Penn State runner, they always imitate Joe. I didn't hear that from you. Can you do that?
Get out of here!
That's better.
That's
come
one of the
over
better
for
ones.
Thanksgiving.
That's one of the better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you some mashed potatoes, and I'm gonna tell you to get out of here.
That's one of the better ones I've ever heard, yeah. So Chris and I, before we knew each other, we sort of came to this opinion independently. We're talking about how it led to 05, which, people say this. I read this quote once: sports are never better than when you're 12 years old. And your freshman year was when I was 12 years old, not to make you feel old. Right? So 05.
I still ain't got no grades.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You could I could be older than you. You could pass. And 05 was the reason I came to Penn State, frankly, that year. Yeah. And leading up to that's when I started going to games. And that in 2004, the goal line stand against Indiana, to us, that moment when you had nothing to play for. You nothing to play for out in Bloomington. And every time I go to Bloomington and see the goal line, I'm like, I remember you guys in 04. That stop to win that game, to us, that springboarded into 05 and everything that came after that, right? I mean, I don't know if it probably didn't feel that way at the time. You're just like this noon game in Indiana in front of 5,000 people. But to us, that was that looking back, like that had to have some meaning.
Yeah, the way that we've actually looked at it was these last two games. I think it was Indiana, Michigan State.
Yep.
Yeah.
That this was next season. That was our approach. So you are right. It was like 5,000 people. I think they spray painted the field because it was so bad at the time. But we felt like this was the beginning of next season. And Indiana, they always was a gritty team during that era. I forget his name, but he's on the Big Ten Network now. He's like a New York City, New Jersey guy, just like
DiNardo.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like that team was a gritty team, and that particular day we was in a bar fight, so to speak, but that goal line stand, just thinking about it right now gives me goosebumps. And we knew that they were going to come in what we called that Hoosier I formation, where it was three guys in I formation, and they were going to try to run it down our throat. And if you look at that defense, though, the personnel that was on that defense, you're talking about guys that all went to the NFL. Everybody calls him Cameron Wake, but Derek Wake, D. Wake, was on that defense. Kelvin Lowry was on that defense. Ed Johnson was on that defense. Scott Paxton, Jay Elford was on that defense. We was loaded. Oh, yeah. And we wanted. The other thing is Joe was getting a lot of flack, so we took that personal. Joe, he was our leader, and we took that personal, and we wanted to, make sure that when we left out as a class, that we left out better than we found it. And that was the start. Going into that Indiana game, that was the start of next season.
Go look it up on YouTube. 04 Indiana goal line stand. Anwar Phillips blows the coverage, but then also has the hustle to chase the receiver down, knock him out before he gets into the end zone. Then the defense does the rest, and the rest after that is history. So, AZ, Alan Zamitis, former team captain, one of the best defensive backs in Penn State history, man, and now back here in Happy Valley helping uphold the standard. We really appreciate you being with us, man. You are welcome back anytime. And like I said, we couldn't do a show without Noble involved somehow. He's at home with his COVID. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he just didn't want to drink with Pat. We're not sure. But we're going to talk to him about what we're seeing so far from Penn State's defense, and we'll get his score prediction. So check that out, and we'll be right back. Okay, Noble, we couldn't get off that easy, just calling in sick. You knew we had to have you in the show somehow, so here we are.
Yeah, I know. I tried.
It's fine. It's fine. No, nobody wants your germs.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So before we get into your score prediction here, kind of extending from the conversation we had about the coordinators, one of the questions we got this week was, especially in the second half last week against Illinois, you saw Penn State doing things up at the line of scrimmage, very many Diaz-like, more than we've seen so far this season from Tom Allen. And so number one, first question for you, the football guy and the coach, are we seeing what we think we're seeing? Were there shades of the Diaz defense that we've not seen yet so far from Penn State?
Yeah, I think there was. And actually the course, when you kind of threw this at me a few minutes ago, I started thinking about it and definitely saw a little bit different pressure package from Tom Allen. At least it seemed that way. And it could be twofold. Number one, it could be he was holding it, right? Just kind of holding it in his pocket. Right. Coordinators do that, right? Where you say, hey, look, I'm going to try and keep this in here until Big Ten play, right? Do we really need it against Bowling Green? Maybe they did, right? Do you need it against Kent State? Those kinds of things. And then bust it out. And sometimes it's a halftime adjustment where you just go, look, like we need to do something a little different right now. And you can hold things in your pocket for a half, right? We're going to play the first half this way. We're going to see what they're doing, and then we're going to come out with this. I think probably everyone has whether you want to call it a mug front, right, or something along those lines where you walk everybody to the line of scrimmage, and they're looking for key indicators. You're either sending everybody, you're attacking the slide of the protection, right? So if the O-line all slides one way, that's going to tell a certain group on that line, on the defensive players, to bop into coverage, right? So the way that I teach it is, hey, we're all going to attack kind of the inside hip of the next guy, right? And if I get his face, if the O-lineman turns and looks at me, I now drop into coverage, right? And the edge guys are always going, right? So it sends a different combination of people. So I think it was a good changeup. I think this group they were dominant up front. And I think that you saw kind of an extension of that with the pressure package help them out, right? It became more than just rush 4, and it became kind of a deal where now other teams also have to prepare for that, right? So now as you're going into this week's game against UCLA, now, okay, not only do they have to deal with the 4-man stuff and the blitzes, now they have to deal with this mug front, right, or a boss front, whatever you want to call it, where you're getting everybody at the line of scrimmage and getting after it. It's huge right now in the NFL. You're seeing a lot of teams run it. Brian Flores in Minnesota, they're 4-0 right now, and he used it a ton last year, and he's built off of it this year. So if you happen to be watching a Vikings game, you'll see a lot of that. But I thought it was a good changeup, and I like it. I mean, the one thing that defensively, a lot of times it can be very reactive, and that is a front that puts the pressure on the offense right now. Offensive line and quarterback to make a decision, you have to check to something. It's kind of like the offense going to empty, right? When the offense goes to empty, you're only going to have 3 or 4 calls defensively to handle that. And they're going to be able to get you into what they want to get you into. It's the same thing defensively. I'm now forcing the hand of the offense. They have to slide protect. They have to do something different. And I can manipulate and make them do what I want them to do now. So it's a little bit of that chess match right there. And I thought it was a nice addition, and I'm looking forward to seeing them build on it.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, you're not going to get out of doing a random number generator pick this week. And in fact, just the opposite of what we normally do. You're going to go before everybody. You got to randomly generate a number for Penn State UCLA on Saturday. Go.
Man, I'll tell you what, the Bruins are so bad.
They're a bad team.
I know,
They're very bad.
And it's tough to even figure out, because sometimes the bad teams we don't score a lot of points against, but I feel like there's some momentum building right now. I really do. I feel good about this team, which is sometimes the kiss of death, so I apologize. I'm going to say this is a pretty solid day. I'm going to say 42-17.
A cover. Okay. All right.
Yeah, a cover. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good.
It's just take me on my word. It's a cover. Mike the mailman and Kevin will back me up.
I like it.
All right, Brandon, you feel better, man. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you back up here in Happy Valley real soon.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Random Number Generator is brought to you by the good folks at Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Anti-Fragile is the official beer supplier fueling the obligatory pregame show. Anti-Fragile brews incredible beer we all enjoy and recommend. And check out their Moody Culture Kombucha and fill up on Uncle John's cheesesteaks. Check them out when you're in Happy Valley at 324 East Calder Way or anytime at antifragilebrew.com. All right. Okay. So first of all, I'm an idiot. That is not a cover. I had a bunch of things going on while Noble's talking, and I'm thinking he says 48-17. And I watched it back, and I was like 42. Well, I look like a moron, but if you watch this show, you know. Yeah. So thanks to Anti-Fragile Brewing Company for sponsoring the Random Number Generator all throughout the season. Boys, we are facing off against the Bruins. It's a 28-point spread. So I am going to need a randomly generated number, and we'll see whether or not you're going to pick the Nittany Lions to cover that big 28. Kev, what do you got?
Well, a couple of things first. One, Anti-Fragile Brewing, fantastic. Thank you for bringing the beers on set. They have a wide range of styles, right? Their IPAs are their bread and butter, but they also make great Pilsners like we're drinking now. So,
They should be selling here.
They should be selling here, and we will have.
Selling more.
I'll make you this promise, Pat, just because you're wearing that. We'll have Anti-Fragile beer over here by the end of the year. Although they're small batch, so it's hard to get it beyond the Calder Way location. But see us there on Fridays and Saturdays and probably Sundays too.
Yeah.
Another thing is, people talk about, and I was the Zamitis segment. I was fanboying a little bit. If you couldn't tell.
Yeah, no doubt. Sames.
We say a lot about Coach Franklin and whatever the current regime, and Brandon Noble's talked on the podcast and this show a lot about whatever rift exists between Letterman prior to 2014 and present. It does hearten me to know that on staff now it includes Zamitis, Dan Connor, Ty Howe, Michael Mowdy, who you could say Evan Pugh, George Atherton, Joe Paterno, Michael Mowdy, four most important people in not just in university history, and put them in any order, and I couldn't disagree with you, right? And he is higher than they are on staff right now, currently in the Lash building. So that, whenever I'm feeling negativity and hearing from Letterman about how they didn't get their names announced because during the Rose Bowl ceremony on Saturday, which is legitimate, by the way, I think about the fact that there are so many good people in the building who are doing it for the right reasons, and they're still there. So AZ is one of those guys, and I try not to fanboy too hard. So anyway, I don't know, Mike. If you can get 28, take 28. It's 29 and a half now. Look, UCLA held Oregon scoreless for a quarter and a half. They're not a good football team. Penn State's going to win by double digits, certainly, but it's not going to be a Kent State game or anywhere close to it. So I'm not taking the 28.
That's it's a big number.
It is a large number for a team that does not score that quickly, and especially if Nick Singleton is sort of sidelined a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And they're not running the ball like that. I don't know. Let's go with, and I haven't even done the math to say they're not going to cover. Let's go with 35-7.
Okay, so I can tell that Pat is teeing up a big prediction. He's sitting in the Brandon Noble seat, so we're going to let him go last. So I'm going over to you, Mr. Trends to Treasure. Okay, 28 points. Mike, what do you got?
I think they'll barely cover. I have them winning by 33, only because I think I think everyone's aware of the line, coaching staff on down. I think it will cover.
James knows the number.
I know
There is no doubt.
I know
that
that.
man knows the number always.
Best Vegas head coach since gambling was legalized.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. But the thing is, like you said, they're going to use the second, third, fourth team a lot. So
hope so.
That
Said that against Bowling Green didn't work out so well.
Yeah, that scares me about the number. But I think overall, UCLA is not good.
Well, here's how I think you get the depth guys into the game. You score early and often.
Yeah, and they haven't done that. They haven't
Get up 3 or 4 scores by the middle of the second quarter, and then you set the staff up to start looking down the depth chart and say, hey, man, we got an opportunity to get some live fire reps for our backups. Let's do that in the second half. So it's all about starting fast, which has not been a strength so far.
The most important thing about the game is we want you to be comfortable during the game.
Me, personally, yes. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I will be very uncomfortable. Here's how I'm playing the game, Mike. So you can get out there 15.5 UCLA team total points. I'm taking UCLA team total points under 15.5. Now, that factors in the fact that hopefully they're playing against Penn State's second team defense most of the second half, right? And there's room for shenanigans when that kind of stuff happens. But I still like that. That'll be my one bet that I place rather than the number, because I think the offense will slow down eventually, but I don't see UCLA scoring very many points, if at all, unless there's some fluky variance type plays where there's some defensive scores or whatever.
No matter who you are, what age you are, if you're an undergrad, for sure, that noon kickoff is going to feel like 9 a.m., but not like it's going to feel like 9 a.m. for UCLA, and they're not very good.
I know.
They're not deep. They're not talented. I think this is the week Penn State starts strong, and they do get those early scores. I think they maybe get stymied once or twice. Again, maybe not the worst thing if they get to attempt some field goals. But I've got the final score as, I do like the 35, Kev, but let's give them a 3 from somebody. Let's make it 38-7 Nittany Lions. Pat, what do you got? Take us out.
Man.
Randomly generate some numbers.
Once we start talking about the rush game, and they don't have one, and we have one of the best rush defenses in the country.
1.1 yards per attempt for the Fighting Illini.
Oh, man, that is crazy. I didn't even know that. I don't gamble, but I would like to find a bookie and get something on this one.
But the guy at the end.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a big win. We definitely go over 50. Like you guys were saying, they're going to get some backups. And Chris, we talked a while ago about the Cincinnati game, 81-0.
Yes.
We were fourth-string quarterback, and you're sitting there and he's bouncing around and just scoring because nobody can
John
tackle
Sacca, the slowest human being alive. Ran like 80 yards.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody was trying to tackle him. He was just bouncing around. We might have touchdowns like that this week. I'm just saying. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm looking at, they might not even score, but let's give them the benefit of a doubt. Let's give them a field goal. Okay, 3 points, because we will have our fourth-string defense.
Sure.
But these guys have played already. So let's go 59-3.
We have more or less than
Bet it. Bet it.
59. Is that how many beers you'll have over under? That's the real line.
That's a tough one. That's right about the number. You're a good handicapper, I'll tell you.
That's right. I've been doing it
All
a
right.
while.
Well, we're going to get out of here. This is, I am quite comfortable, going to be a win for the Nittany Lions. And then it is on the line next week. It is one of the biggest games for a long time.
That's a game
Penn
I
State
said
football.
worried me from day one.
Yeah,
We've been sitting
no
home
doubt.
for 5 weeks.
No doubt.
Sitting home for 5 weeks.
Yep.
But I think the team is going to understand what's at stake. So for Kevin Horn, Mike the Mailman, I'm your fake host, Chris Bucanani. For Pat Romano, sitting in for the in absentia, Brandon Noble, and special thanks to Alan Zamitis for joining us. We appreciate you being here with us today and all throughout the season. We are at the We Are in Philipsburg. If you're coming up for a game, still rooms available. If you're in the area, come on out here for the karaoke, for the watch parties, come for the cheesesteaks. It's the Penn Statiest place at Penn State. It's good stuff. Until we talk to you next, take care of yourselves and each other. We are. Beat UCLA.